doing things 24/7, you're leaving no space for creativity because your creativity doesn't live in the hustle. You're leaving no space for intuition and listening to that, which is your greatest guiding compass as a business owner, right? There's going to be so much logic that comes in and strategy and strategic ways, and you can build your email list and funnel this and XYZ, but like, what does your intuition say? Because every single time I've listened to my intuition, that's when timelines really collapse. That's when things really freaking happen for me.
Welcome to The Expansion Code. I'm Heather, and I could not be more excited to finally launch this podcast. This is the space where we dive into all things business, growth, leadership, and team expansion. I am really passionate about building something bigger than myself, sharing knowledge, and creating opportunities for others to thrive. I started solo, and now I lead a team of over 50, so trust me, I know the highs and the challenges and the incredible moments that come with scaling a business. Throughout this podcast, I'll be sharing insights, strategies, and conversations with some truly incredible guests. We are going to cover everything from marketing and leadership to mindset shifts and business expansion. So my goal is to give you real actionable takeaways that you can apply to your own journey. Let's dive in, learn together, and unlock what's next. Welcome to The Expansion Code. Hello, welcome back to The Expansion Code with Heather Dick. That is me, your host. Today I have, I'm going to say a friend.
Yes.
A friend from afar.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
perfect. Okay. Today we have Tracey Jasmine with us today. You are a previous photographer turned powerhouse. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Yay, I'm so excited. So yes, I'm a holistic business strategist, which in English is essentially a business coach who's looking at things all encompassing. So I've been in the world of business since I was 22, which if I do the math is 12 years. And along that way, I realized that there's just this missing piece where we're not taken into consideration along with the strategic pieces of building a business, right? It's like, just apply the strategy. Why isn't it working? Just do it. Just take the action. And we don't remember that we're, human beings over here on this end. And so that's what that holistic piece means. For me as a coach, I look at things all encompassing. So we're looking at your business and we're looking at you because you are the CEO. And if we don't look at you, we're missing a very vital piece.
Oh, I think a lot of people are probably having aha moments already because we don't do that. We don't do that as business owners. We're like looking at systems and scaling and profit and accounting, but we don't really look at the fact that we're the ones running it.
Exactly. You're the most important asset of all.
Yeah. Trace, can you give us a little background about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
So I started as a wedding photographer at the mere age of 22, which is crazy. I feel like I was so fearless and bold back then.
I love that.
Like, just, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go be a photographer. I'm just going to quit everything. Yeah.
Good for you.
I did not tell my parents the last 2 weeks. You know how you have like the last 2 weeks, right? Before you can quit and you wrap up all the things. I'm like, I don't even know what it's called anymore because it's been so long. I didn't tell them. I waited till that 2 weeks was over, told them that, and they were like, what about your pension? What about benefits? What about all of this stuff? Boomer parents things. And so from there, went into weddings. I kind of did the thing like we all do in the beginning. Like I was saying, if you have a heartbeat, like I'll work with you. And then I figured out my niche. I loved weddings. I loved love. So I photographed that for 6 years. And then it was in the midst of that weddings wasn't really going to be a forever lifestyle for me. It was way too hard. I love summer. I'm such a summer girly. And so to be working every summer weekend was like, this ain't it. This just ain't it for me.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And so then I was like, okay, well, what do I do instead? And so I've always been photographing the amazing couples I had in beautiful homes. And I was like, maybe interior design because I'm good at it. I understand the concepts. I'm, artistic, creative. I'm going to work for fucking HGTV and style at home. And I had all these big dreams. I'm like, that's where I'm going to go. That's what I'm going to do. This is going to be sick. And so I reached out to an interior designer in Edmonton. One of those moments where you like send the cold DM and then you're like, I need to go have a cold shower because my nervous system needs some regulation here. And like 3 months later, she finally got back to me. Long story short, she was a blogger, which is like the old school influencer, as we all know.
I get it.
And she was like, hey, do you want to be my photographer? And I was like, yes. I don't know what the fuck this is or what this means or what kind of photography we're doing, but yes, I love this. So I loved it so much. Her and I were sitting down one day and I was like, what do we call this? Like, what is this? And she was like, I don't know. And I'm like, I feel like it's like you're branding yourself. You're putting yourself out there into the world. And so I joke that we coined it brand photography, and it was sort of like where I ran from there. And then I literally pitched it on a freaking Instagram story of like, hey, I want to do brand photography. This is what that looks like. Here's a subscription model. Is anybody interested? And my one now best friend and a past bride were like, let's do it. I'd love it. I'm like, okay. So then I moved into the world of brand photography, did that for 6 years. And then that's when the coaching piece really like cracked open. I've always been the woman who loves mindset and psychology, all of that. I moved out at 17 and I really quickly realized like this was really up to me. And I actually had a lot more power than, just like letting life happen to me essentially. And so I was like, what if I pull all these things together? So in the shoots, I'd have all these women say like, oh, my confidence and trust myself. And I don't believe in myself. And how would you do this? And just, normal business things. And I'm like, oh, well, duh, da, 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 da. And they'd be like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Sweet. Okay, go off and do it. It works. And I was like, okay, if I fucking couple these things together, I put these two things together, I think I should be a business coach. And then down the rabbit hole of like, how the F do you become a business coach and how do you build up that trust and all of those things to have somebody like really hire you? And so that's, the beginning of where I started. And then in the midst of all that, moved my entire business across the country from Ottawa to Edmonton.
Wow.
Yeah. Where I knew nobody, not a soul. I knew nobody here.
But okay, so you have actually because I knew that you did branding, obviously.
Yeah.
But so do you think that helped you at all knowing about branding and photography? Do you think it helped in your coaching and consulting business, or do you think those are completely separate?
Oh, they're completely intertwined. Even
Okay.
the fact that like I went to school for photojournalism. So the journalism piece and messaging and writing and all of that, that is something that I work on with all my clients in strategy, right? The branding and what their brand looks like, how they're positioning themselves, how they're speaking, like all of that. If they're like, I want a high ticket ideal client. I'm like, okay, well, girl, your messaging's got to shift. Like
Mm,
we're just not rolling in those people the way that you're speaking about things. So that always comes into play. The visuals obviously come into play. I was the editor of the yearbook, so you can bet that I'm going through everything visual with all my clients of like, no,
yeah.
we got to shift this, we got to change that. So all of that comes into play. And then I also went to school to be an accountant. Like so that also comes into play and is really helpful too, because so many women want to ignore their finances yet
Right.
become millionaires.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really work that way.
So your clients, do you want to give me a little bit of an idea of what your ideal client is, and then we can kind of chat about
Yeah,
how you coach
absolutely.
them? Okay.
Yeah. So they are essentially me,
Mm,
right? I think this is the way it is for all of us. Like our mess is our message. And we
hmm.
end up coaching or helping or supporting or servicing the people who are, maybe 5 steps behind us, right? And so they are a reflection of me, which is so fun to see that. Like I burnt myself out so bad being a wedding photographer and a brand photographer. I was doing like 6 shoots a week as a brand photographer
Oh my
times 4 weeks.
God.
So 24 plus the editing, like it was bananas. And so all of these women are high achievers, like always high achiever, always fiercely independent, right? And so this is another piece that, even my positioning myself as a coach, it's actually deterring my ideal client because I don't want coaching because that means I need help, and asking for help as
Mm,
a high achieving, fiercely independent woman is like, I
of
don't need
course.
help. I'll figure it out myself.
Yeah, and you should know yourself. That's
You
a
should.
feeling we have, right? Like, "Oh,
Exactly.
I should know everything. I don't need a coach," which is just so
Exactly.
wrong. It's the opposite.
Exactly. And so my positioning from going from coach to strategist aligns more with, yeah, I want a partner. I want a business partner. I want a business strategist who's going to help me look at, my mind and my business. And so even that shift has been
Mm,
really, really important. So all the women I work with are your typical like type A lists, super overwhelmed, probably a mom, let's be real. Right. And so then you've got that added piece onto it. And so they're really looking for like, I want this freedom. I want time freedom so badly to be traveling and be with my kids more. And I want all of that. But like, how do I have that and the thriving business? Because right now I cannot figure that out come hell or high water. And so we start to do an audit on like their whole entire life. How are you spending your time? How are you bringing in money? And then there's the branding and the marketing and the accounting and the finances and all of that kind of comes in. So it's really, really like full circle to help them, get honest.
yeah. Do you work with specific entrepreneurs, or do you work with, any kind of professional?
Yeah, it used to be just creatives because that's where I had that comfort level. I was a creative entrepreneur and we are so subjective, where we're like, so does you like my art or do you not like my art,
Yeah.
right? And your
Yeah.
whole like emotions based off that. But now I work with anyone, and this was actually thanks to one of my amazing clients, Ali. She's a dentist, and she was like, Tracey, I know you can help me. Can you please just can we please just work together? And I was like, you're not a creative, Ali. I don't know. I don't know if I can coach a dentist. And
Yeah.
so I said, you know what? I'm willing to like give it a whirl. Let's give it a try. And she was really what cracked it open for me. So now I can work with absolutely every single industry. Um, so long as, of course, we vibe and there's that belief in all of
Of course.
those pieces. And I see that your business is viable and all of that stuff. And I know I can help you. I'm never going to be that person. So it's been really fun to see like I think there's like over 50 industries that I've worked with because the
Wow.
process that I use isn't industry focused. So I
Right.
don't just bring on like, I've worked with coaches. So we only bring in like things that work in the coaching industry. It's like, I'm taking like Netflix's subscription model. Let's apply it over here and let's take this and apply it over there. Like there's none of the, like, I don't really have a niche in that sense. My niche is really that woman and, the woman who's ready to take responsibility and wants this for herself and knows it's going to take, looking at things she doesn't want to look
Yeah.
at.
And like
Yeah.
looking underneath the rug and opening books that
Hmm.
they don't want to open. It's really scary. I've had quite a few coaches on the podcast, and one specifically scales salons, and that's exactly what she talks about is that, we just like turtle head, we're scared of the truth. But a lot of times the truth isn't actually that scary, and it makes things so much more free for us when we're business owners, and now we have the tools to survive and thrive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, we all know the logic. Like, does not looking at my finances help me become a millionaire? Probably
Yeah.
not.
No,
Like,
no,
probably not going to get us there.
no.
But it's so overwhelming and it's so big to do it on your own. So this is where I love to position myself as like, I'm going to be your partner in this. We're going to do this together. You're not alone. Your feelings are normal. All of this is normal. And then it just feels a lot safer to do that rather than this like massive undertaking. And like, I don't even know what's under that rug. Like, I don't
Mhm.
even want to look. Right. It's like,
So
let's look together.
yeah, totally. And honestly, I mean, entrepreneurship is lonely, right? So I think once people have coaches and they realize the value that even just having someone to bounce an idea off of that's not their husband, their best friend, their mom, um, you know, yeah, it's insanely valuable. So anyone listening that's like wondering if they should get a coach or not, you really should.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so one thing that really caught me from your website that I freaking love is that you're not just a mindset coach, you work with strategy as well. And I
Yes.
think that lots of times, but people hear mindset and they think like fluff, it's like, oh,
Yes.
you just like your daily mantras, you write them on your mirror, but you have to have a strategy that goes along that. And I would love to hear how you combine mindset tools with strategy and why both are required for long-term success.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay, how long do we
Let's
have?
go.
Yeah, I'm like, let's freaking dive in. So I always like see this as a staircase. So I see that we've got to expand our mind first in order to get us there. So your mindset, if you think of building a business, it's like building a house. Your mindset is the foundation. And if you don't have that strong foundation, it's going to be really hard to build a tall house, a big house, right? If that foundation is weak, maybe you have actually been there in real life where you
Yeah,
actually need to fix your foundation on your
hopefully.
house. It's a mission, right? And so the purpose of this is I think of us just a lot of us just have the foundation we have and we just start building the house and then we're like, "Oh dang, I can't keep building because this foundation isn't strong enough," but we're not really sure and aware that it's that foundation. And so I see it like a staircase. We've got to expand our mindset and then we implement strategy and we achieve that goal. And then the next time we have to expand our mindset again, right? So it's every goal you set, you're going to have to look at building up your confidence, building up your belief in yourself, building up your self trust, and looking at all of those inner pieces and the stories that say, I can't have what I want, because that's always what comes up, right? The fear, doubt, worry. It's like, okay, I want to launch a podcast. And you're like, oh my God, can I do that? And like, who's going to listen? And oh my God, is it going to be good? And what if I can't monetize it? And blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff comes up.
Mhm,
All of that stuff is your mind.
mhm.
All of that stuff is your mindset. And so mindset is actually rooted in neuroscience and psychology. It's never been woo woo in that sense, right? We think like manifestation and mindset and it's all woo. And like you said, I'm just going to write my mantras on my
Yes.
mirror and in my journal, and then my life will manifest. And it's really not about that at all. There's so much that comes back to your nervous system and your brain at the end of the day, which are two very real scientific pieces that exist within all of us. And so I bring those tools in. So the tools that I use when it comes to mindset are evidence based. So they've been proven to work. They've actually been used in psychology. They've been tested. They've been all of those things. So when someone's sitting down and sharing with me, what's going on for them, I'm actually listening to their language. So I'm a trained neuro-linguistic practitioner, which means neuro, brain, linguistics, language, and then programming, obviously, like the programming of our beautiful
Right.
mind. And so when someone speaks, I can hear what's going on for them and I can pull it out like a little red thread. It is so easy when someone starts to talk and share and I'm like, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this is the root cause of that thing. And I think a lot of people who do mindset as a coach potentially don't have the training to understand and get to that deeper root cause. And we're just surface level at that point, right? If we
Mhm.
don't have that deep training. And so then that person kind of goes back into the old patterns like, why am I still here? I thought I just worked on this. It's probably because we didn't go deep enough. We probably didn't get to that root cause. So I pull both of those things together because when we go to take the strategic actions, like, okay, Heather, you're going to launch your podcast. Well, if it were that damn easy, we'd all just do it.
Oh, shocker, I had the equipment for a year.
Yeah, right. I still have equipment for mine that I was going to launch 800 years ago.
Yeah. It's a big deal, but yes, continue.
Yeah, right. And so it's like if it was that easy, we would just not need mindset at all. We would just do the dang things. But then our mind gets in the way, right? Our stories, our conditioning, how we were raised, all of that now is influencing our actions. And so when we can look at that and we can reprogram that and we can really like start to dig into where this comes from, then it's going to influence your actions in a positive way, right? So instead of, well, what if this and what if that, what if it's doom and gloom? Now you're like, oh my God, what if, and then we start to live in the land of possibility. We start to see things a lot differently. So
Mhm.
our perception of everything influences all of our actions. Obviously, your actions equate to your reality. And so that's where that mindset piece comes in. We have to look at what's influencing your actions to do or not do that thing. Or when you know, you've been so far into business for so many years and you've just been doing things one way, well, is that strategically getting you where you want to go? Right? I
Right.
keep hitting the same income ceiling. I keep, not getting myself where I want to go. I'm not getting the clients that I want. It's like, okay, well, let's look deeper. And it's like, okay, well, you've got to show up and share this message. And it's like, I can't say those things on Instagram. There's no way I can say those things on Instagram. And it's like, okay, there's the mindset piece that we get to work on,
Mm.
right? Like we're actually getting to the problem. I'm not just being like, well, just do it. Just say those bold perspectives on Instagram, right? Like it's not that easy.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
and it's easy for us to say, sitting in across from someone saying like, "Oh, what's the big deal?" When someone's
Hmm.
been conditioned their whole life to have that like fear-based mentality or maybe like a really big scarcity, there's not enough in the world. There's a lot to break through as an individual, let alone a business owner, and things
Exactly.
so many things hold us back that we have no idea about.
I think that's the thread too, right there, Heather. Honestly, I've had so many women be like, you know what? I think I'm good on like the mindset side, but like, here's what I want to do with my business. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let's do that. And every single time they're like, oh my God, I didn't even realize like that was a thing that I had
Mhm.
that. And like, well, we all have a brain. So we all have a mindset. And sometimes you don't understand that it is like that sneaky thing getting in the way. Like I have a client right now. She's like, hey, I want to gain more clients and I want to, really build up my business. And I'm like, awesome. Okay. And she's like, but I have this fear that I'm going to fall back into burnout
Mhm.
and I can't go there. I can't do it again. And so now I'm like, okay, so now we start to look at that fear. And now what we want to do is find safety for her, right? The opposite of fear is safety. So where can we find safety within how she's already gotten out of burnout, how she's already capable of doing that? And we walk that fear. I think a lot of us want to like hide away from the fear, doubt, and worry. And if I just like don't look at it, it like won't be there and it'll just go away,
Yeah.
which it won't. Fear just gets louder and louder. I always think of fear like a 3-year-old toddler. If they really want your attention, they're gonna get it.
I'm gonna get it.
They're gonna get it, right?
So do you have like a tool or practices that you give your clients? Is it kind of like clients based? Um,
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's definitely like as per client, right? Everything that I do is customized. And so this is kind of that same analogy or like, piece I was sharing before where I don't just like give you a cookie cutter strategy of like, go ahead and do this. It's very much customized. And so it again depends with what that client shares with me. The more they share, the more that I can give them, the more that I can see, okay, this tool is going to be really supportive for you. So if they're really grappling with, believing all of their thoughts and they're really seeing all of their thoughts as truth, then I would introduce a tool called diffusion to them. And this is like, again, an evidence-based tool that helps them separate themselves from their thoughts and say, oh, I'm the thinker and the thoughts over here. I'm the, one feeling the emotion, but the emotion's over here. So it really depends on what that person's going through. But like there are hundreds of tools that I'll
Mm.
give clients. And so like there's fear setting, like I was just talking about before, where let's walk that fear. Okay, let's go. Worst case scenario, that happens and you fail. What are you going to do?
Mhm.
Because it's so damn empowering to look back and be like, oh, well, I'd figure it out, or I'm capable,
Yeah.
or I could do that. And it's like, okay, now it feels safe to move. Sweet. Right. So
Mhm.
for me, I'm really like a little scientist over here nerding out when it comes to the mindset side of things. Like when they're unable to take that strategic action of what's really going on in their brain right now. Right. And so when I can understand what's going on, then I can flip it around for them and I can give them that right tool. So they're like, I'm so scared of this. I'm so scared of this. And so I'm like, okay, let's go down the fear. Let's just go there.
Mhm.
Right. And so I actually had one of my closest friends do it and she was so resistant. And she's like, I don't want to imagine this. This is terrible. Why would you ask me to do this? And she was really frustrated with me. And to this day, she's like, I can't believe how much that exercise changed my life because I realized I actually don't need that thing I was looking for. I'm good without it. And now that thing is going to come into her life like, so much easier.
It's, it's pretty it's hard to emulate to people that aren't maybe a business owner or haven't had to take, like, a really huge step, like, so I talk to, a lot of business owners that have a home-based business that are looking to grow into a commercial space. So
Yes.
scaling that business, how do you get to that space? And signing your first lease, signing your first rent agreement, whatever that may be, is
Yep.
terrifying,
Mhm.
terrifying, especially
Mhm.
when you've had a home-based business and you had no overhead and if anything you could write off your mortgage
Yes.
and now you're literally going the opposite way. You're adding way more to your expenses. You're taking on a huge risk.
Yep.
Sometimes, like, people look at it as a big risk.
Yeah.
But that self-talk is detrimental or it propels you. It's like one or the other. And it's very hard um to break out of that cycle if you don't have anyone to kind of help you through that, I think, you know?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, right? Because you just loop. You
Mhm.
loop and you loop and you loop and you loop until you hear that one thing or that person says that one thing, or maybe you're working with a strategist, a coach, a consultant who can say, here's another perspective. Have you ever looked at it like this? Or, I've like got the neuroscience and the psychology training where it's like, okay, let's try this tool. And you're like, oh, okay, it's not really as scary as my brain's making it out to be. Or it's not
Mhm.
really as that big of a deal. Or, it is still actually a big damn deal, but I can do this.
Mhm.
Right? It's like the empowerment that comes behind it, because it can make or break you,
Yeah,
right? Your self-talk.
totally. And I also think that being prepared as much
Yeah,
as possible when you take these leaps helps, because it takes away that I'm not safe feeling.
exactly.
And people a lot of times take the leap too soon. And
Yes,
so then they're signing on to a lease that's $5,000 where they paid, and they don't have any money in the bank. They're also taking on a loan. They don't have a plan to get more clients. Like that's when it's like your fight or flight is engaged because it's like, whoa, 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 this is actually probably not the right thing to do.
exactly. That's like chronic stress 101. Right? Your
Yeah.
nervous system is just absolutely thrown for a loop. And then there's going to be so much pressure on you making any kind of moves. That's not even a mindset thing. Your nervous system always comes before your mindset.
Hmm.
Right. And so if your nervous system is in that state, the only way to get out of that state would potentially be to like, oh, the lease. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to kind of go backwards that way. And so I hear you 110%. Like
Yeah.
those things are so important to plan ahead of time, right? You've got to have that. There's always going to be nerves. There's always going to be some form of fear, but I always tell my clients fear can come along for the ride and it's going to. It's a really good thing to have, right? We need that to protect us. That's all it's trying to do. It's all your brain's trying to do, but it can't drive the car.
Hmm. So, okay, before we go into the next topic that I can't wait to talk to you about, do you have any like an actionable business strategy that someone could take for longer sustainability? Like, is there anything like one or two things that you say is absolutely necessary for a business owner to have sustainability?
Yeah, the number one thing is a support system.
Mm,
You've got to have the right people on your team.
I totally agree.
And it is so hard and challenging and illuminating when you want to go down this road. I want to have more freedom. I want to have more balance. I want to have more ease. You are going to be forced to look at every single corner of your world and who you
Mhm,
have supporting you. And it's really challenging, especially when it comes to the side of like partners.
mhm.
I feel like that's the hardest one to look at here. We joke that in the evolving entrepreneur there should be a disclaimer that like may want to end your relationship when you first start, but don't worry, it'll get better. It'll be
Yeah,
fine. But
yeah.
it's just because when you start to grow, you're really seeing all these corners of like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting the support I need here or here or here or there, and maybe within yourself too. I'm not even supporting myself, right? And so that's the number one thing is your support system. And then again, the next is how you're treating yourself as the most important asset of your business.
Mhm. I gotta say this is so validating because this is what I tell, and obviously my my life is based around community and having a network.
Yes.
Same with my business. So I preach this on the podcast all the time. So I love when
Yes.
my guests come back at me with
Yes.
that answer because it's like, yes, we're all on the same page. And it's so true. Lots of times people, I think it's a little bit different now because people are recognizing that the importance of having a community and a network of individuals around you, how important that is, whereas before maybe 10 years ago, it was like, "Oh, you gotta have a good accounting system," you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's changed.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so you talk about taking care of yourself.
Hmm.
Something on your website stuck out to me so much, and it's something that I've adopted over the past couple years, and it's slow mornings. And
Mm.
I don't think, the luxury of a slow morning, I couldn't put a dollar sign on it.
Oh, no, same. Like I was literally just talking about this in my evolving entrepreneur coaching group, and we were talking about unapologetically saying that I want a slow morning and I love a slow morning and I don't want to be the person who like gets up and goes.
Mhm.
Like, I don't want that identity for myself. I don't want to believe that being a morning person means I get up and go.
Yeah. And okay, so let's talk about the balance and the productivity and how important it is to have not necessarily a slow morning because maybe people don't like slow mornings. Maybe they like
Totally.
slow evenings or
Yes.
whatever that means, right? Like, I like slow mornings because it resonates with me.
Mhm.
But maybe that's different. But I'd love to talk about balance and productivity because I think that that's something that everyone struggles with in our
Yes.
hustle culture.
I totally agree. Like, I won't even buy a journal if the word hustle is on the front. Like, I can't. I cannot do
Mm.
it. My body has like a visceral reaction to that world, and I will coin myself as a hustle culture hater forever. It's just not the way you have to do it. I feel like I burnt myself out, and then I realized there was a better way, and now I'm like, okay, we're going to teach this to the world. So, this piece about balance, this is where my linguistics training really comes in. A lot of people hate the word balance because they perceive it as 50-50.
Mm.
But what they're actually perceiving it as perfectionism.
Well, interesting.
Has to be perfectly 50-50. If it's not perfectly 50-50, balance isn't attainable.
Right.
But that's not balance. The
No.
scale's always moving, right? And so if the word balance doesn't land with you and you just hate that word, you can call it work life integration, right? You can call it whatever you want, ebbing and flowing, right? I'm always ebbing and flowing with like what needs to happen when it needs to happen. And in my opinion, that's balance.
Mhm.
Or you can call it integration. I'm integrating, work and life where they need to, and everything's just kind of like, again, ebbing and flowing, right? You're going with the flow of things. So I think that's what we really mean by balance is being able to like go with the flow where you have steady increases of effort in some areas and then less in others. And then it just kind of keeps like shifting and changing as life does, as every season of life does, especially when you have children. They're at home with you, then they're not at home with you, then they're at daycare, then they're at school. Everything's changing so quickly. You've got to learn to balance and like work with all of that on a consistent basis. So I say balance is ever evolving. It's never like 50-50. And so I see a lot of my clients get stuck in the mindset that like it's perfectly 50-50 all the time. And if I don't achieve that I don't have balance.
Okay, so for someone that's starting a new business,
Hmm.
has never taken a client a day in their life,
Yeah.
Like you when you were 22 as a photographer.
Yeah, it's like I'm literally having a flashback
Yeah.
Heather, of the moment when I was like had my first day of work and I'm like, so what do I do? Literally.
Yeah. Oh, I've been there.
Yeah.
Got my makeup certification when I was in nursing school, thinking that I would just get rich because I
Yeah.
had the certification and not realize that I needed faces to put makeup on. So again, that balance is really hard to find. How do you build your books without saying yes to every single person? How do you build that business and build your bank account um and still say no? Like
Yeah.
tell
I
us,
think
Tracy.
I think honestly you have to try and you have to figure out what doesn't work. Right? You're never going to know what balance feels like for you until you don't feel it, right? So like we talk a lot in this world I think about like being in alignment. We want to be in
Mhm.
alignment. Well, being out of alignment is actually just as fucking beautiful as being in alignment because being
Oh,
out of alignment actually shows you what's not working.
right.
Then you can shift it, you can change it, right? But don't get yourself to the point where you're like so, gung ho with clients that you literally have no time and space. So I think like if there could be a course or there could be something is you have to learn to find the balance between working in the business and working on the business, but it's going to be heavier in certain seasons, right? If you're building out
Right.
a course, yeah, working on the business is going to be heavier, so you're going to have to take that into account. June to July, I'm building out the course. So I'm probably not going to have the capacity to take on as many clients. Okay, now that's going to affect my income. So how's that going to roll?
Mhm.
Right? Like you have to strategically plan ahead and look at those things. So even when you are in the beginning, like it's not even about time, it's about capacity.
Mhm. Yeah, and I talk a lot about self-awareness as well.
Mhm.
Self-awareness is key to even so you're talking about June, July being really, really busy. Lots of times as entrepreneurs, what we do is we make the mistake of still operating at this really high level in June and July and expecting ourselves to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And then when we can't, we've disappointed ourselves because we had a
Yeah.
list of 8 tasks that day. We only got 1 done because we're
Mhm.
also trying to build this course. And I think that it comes with experience, it comes with
Exactly.
practice,
Yeah.
and it comes with burning out, you know?
Yes. Yeah, it
Yeah,
does. It really does come from failing,
yeah.
right? Like so many women I see are terrified of failing, but it is the greatest gift.
Mhm.
It
I
is the
agree.
greatest gift to like mess up and
Yeah,
screw up and, not that we want to burn you out because it's not good for your nervous system and your mental
sure.
health and all those things.
Yeah, of course.
But getting to that teetering edge, right? And you have to have the self-awareness that like this isn't feeling good for me.
Mhm.
Instead of the belief, which I think is like the underlying theme we're kind of talking about here, is that like in order to be successful, I must push and force and go, 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 go. And if I don't, I'm not being successful or I'm not going to become successful. And I think that's like the underlying thread here, which is hustle culture 101.
Okay, we need to take a little break because, shocker, this podcast is brought to you by my flagship company, Blush, and I need to give a shout out. So, not only does Blush sponsor my lavish lifestyle, it also sponsors this podcast. Shouts. If you know me, you know that I do not play around when it comes to beauty and self care. And that's why Blush is your one stop shop for looking and feeling your best. We genuinely do it all: hair, makeup, nails, massage, tattoo, medi spa. Basically, if it makes you feel like a goddess, we probably offer it. So, whether you're looking for a fresh balayage or a relaxing massage or a little of that, I woke up like this glow, we've got the experts to make it happen. Think of it as self care, but with a little extra love, sunshine, and family. And actually, with our most recent expansion, we now have a private gym, physiotherapy, chiropractic services, and a lot more to help your body. So, if you are ready to treat yourself, book an appointment at Blush Artistry because let's be honest, life's too short for bad hair and uneven eyeliner. You can find us at blush-artistry.ca or over on Instagram at blushartistrymua. Back to the episode. We talk about startup hours, right?
Hmm.
And so anytime, let's say, I'll use opening our my first commercial space as an example.
Yeah.
Um, I was working at my parents' business from 8 to 5 in the morning. I'd get up at 4:30 in the morning. I would do all of these things before work, and then go home and go to the commercial space.
Yeah.
That was the most tired I've ever been in my entire life. But I have to say, if I didn't do that at that time, if I didn't almost burn myself out and probably burn myself out,
Yeah.
Blush would have never opened at the time that it did. It would have never had the success. We would have never had months of free rent making income. Like there's a lot of things. So how do you find that balance to someone that's in a position like I was that has there's no other option?
Yeah, I think there's the awareness that this is a season.
Mm,
Right now, this is going to be required in order for me to get where I want to go, or you've got to like shift your goal.
right.
Right? So are you willing to burn yourself out and go down that road in order to have this? Is that really worth it for you? And for some people, a lot of people, it is worth it. But what's the slingshot effect?
Right.
So then what are you going to have to do afterwards, right? To heal that burnout, to heal that and get yourself back into alignment? Or is this now going to be your pattern of hustle?
Hmm.
Because that's what you had to do to get where you were to get success. So have you now built up a mindset that I need to hustle in order to have success?
Right. I will be very honest. When Blush first opened, I didn't even want to go there
Yeah,
because that was the slingshot effect. And everyone's like, oh, you're never there. You're never there. I'm like, man, I can't even look at that place right now. Like it had bad vibes for me.
hmm,
But experience, there's now we've worked on ways to have that like slow mornings and things like that. But I think that it's important that you and I have this conversation
yeah,
because you work with clients in that moment.
exactly.
I was in that moment
Yes.
and getting out of it. It's just not the answer. It just doesn't have to be like that. Or if it is, like you said, have the season. I didn't have that mentality.
Exactly, right? But, like, I think, again, this is a stuff I wish I knew in the beginning because I
Totally.
also burnt myself out. I was like, 6 shoots a week? Yeah, doable. Tuesdays
Yeah.
and Fridays, perfect, 3 and 3. I kid you not, I would be driving from, like, St. Albert all the way down to Leduc, Leduc back to St. Albert, which is, like, what, a freaking hour at this point around the
Mhm.
city,
Mhm.
in between shoots, and I'd leave an hour between shoots, and I'm just like, "Go, go, 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 go," and I was like, "Okay, this is amazing. It's all working. All of the income's coming on, all of that," and I think then too, we have to look at how are we measuring success.
Right.
That's another big piece of it, and I think
Huge.
income,
Yeah.
is what we think in the beginning,
Yeah.
and so, like, now I think a lot of entrepreneurs are starting to see a new era of entrepreneurship where there are going to be, seasons of steady effort. I will
Mhm.
never say the word hustle because that you've gone too far, but, like, steady effort for sure, where you're, like, really testing your boundaries with yourself because you really want this thing to get out there into the world. Yeah, absolutely, but you've gotta understand there's gonna be a slingshot effect.
Mhm.
You're gonna have that moment.
Totally. At the beginning of this episode, should I put "I'm a Hustler Baby" by Jay-Z for
Yes,
you?
absolutely. Probably like my most hated song of all time.
It's so funny because everything hustle is coming up in my mind now. I completely agree, and I think that one of the things that hit me, and I'll share this story as a personal story because I think other people can relate. I put this on my business social media, and the response was huge.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't that I wanted more money; it's that I
Yeah,
wanted more time. And I told myself I wanted to go golfing on a Wednesday at 12 o'clock, and I can go golfing on a Wednesday at 12 o'clock now. And that to me is way more valuable than having an automatic $10,000 deposited in my account every single month for doing a Monday to Friday 8 to
absolutely.
5 job, and I think that people are starting to recognize that. Now, that being said, Tracy, there
Mm,
is still a place for someone that wants that consistent Monday to Friday 8 to 5 job, and we need those people.
absolutely. Heck
Yeah.
yes, and it's really about fulfillment.
Yeah.
Like, what fulfills you? If you have a 9 to 5 that you freaking love, girl, give her. Go
Get
for
it.
it.
Yeah.
Do it. I'm here for it.
Mhm.
Entrepreneurship is not fulfilling for everybody, which
Mhm.
is good,
Yes.
which is
Totally.
good, right?
Totally.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Do you have any client stories you can share with me? You don't have to share names, of course, or you can call them like Susie.
Brenda. I always go to like think of all these names as like a as a 90s kid. I'm like Brittany, Caitlin, and Sarah because those are all of the names growing up. I
Common.
feel like that were so
Totally.
common.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, what client stories should we talk about? I feel like one of my favorite ones is she's a brand designer, and so she came to me and she had the epitome of success. She had it, and she came to me and she said, "But I'm not happy. Like I'm
Mm.
at the end of the day, I'm just not fulfilled. I know I want to be an entrepreneur, but the way that I'm building my business, I'm chained to my desk 24/7."
Can I interrupt you for a second? You
Yeah.
said epitome of success.
Yeah.
What is your version of that? Or the
My
world's version?
the world's version. So the epitome of success, in my opinion, not stereotypical, is you have all the clients, you have all the money, you have all of that material success. You've got the house, maybe you've got your, dream vehicle of choice if that is a thing that you love. You've got all of those like luxuries, but you're missing the real luxuries of life, like slow mornings, like time freedom. Like I want to go get a croissant on a Thursday at 2 with my
Yeah.
bestie, but I can't.
Yeah.
And so I think what we're starting to see is that real luxury of life is always and forever will be time.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
so you were working with her. Sorry, I interrupted your flow.
Yeah,
I
no, no.
interrupted
And
your
so,
flow.
yeah, we were
Okay.
working together and she was saying, I don't have that. I have all of these other pieces that we've been told are success. You should be proud of yourself. You're so successful. And she was like, but that's just not like working for me. It's not enough. Like I just feel so empty. I built it
Mhm.
all and I just feel empty. And so she was missing that fulfillment piece. And she's like, I just want to be able to like, yeah, leave the house for lunch and go somewhere because she lived like in a downtown area. And she's like, but that is just, I have so much guilt doing that. I feel so guilty. How do I take time for myself? And so we worked on giving her a morning routine that feels really good for her. And it was a process, obviously, because she was raised as a child in a specific cultural household where it's like, you don't sit down, you don't relax, you're always doing something, right?
Mhm.
You better be making the most use of your time. And that kind of ties into your question we were talking about before about productivity. What is productivity really? Right? Because
Mhm.
we think it's being busy 24/7. And that was
Yep.
the same version for her as well. And so when we went down this road, there was a lot under that rug that we had to like pull out and look at. And, it was uncomfortable and there was lots of tears that came in those sessions. But now she has this beautiful business where she's making the same freaking money. She's got the boundaries. She's got all these things in check. So the income and the clients are still there. That's all still there and safe for her. But now she also has time freedom. Like, I think she just went to Spain not too long ago. And now she's like got a Europe trip every year. She,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like those things that really matter to her. And so, like,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, building a sustainable business is about giving yourself the time to do what matters to you, whatever the heck that is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you said it so perfectly. If we're not doing something 24/7, we're not being productive. And I think that's one of the biggest keys to burnout is that when we actually take a second to sit and do nothing, we're still stressing our body out because we're not doing anything and
Yeah.
doing anything, quote unquote. But rest it is just as important as the work part.
It's actually more productive,
Okay,
in
yeah.
my opinion, right? That like when was the last time you like just like sat and chilled and reflected upon everything that you've done to get to where you are,
Mhm.
right? Like we talk about women having imposter syndrome. Well, because we're just moving the goalpost so often. But when was the last time you sat and you were like, oh, I'm so proud of myself for XYZ? Like,
Mhm.
probably not very often, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like that piece is so important and productivity too. Like we need to redefine the whole entire word, right? Doing things 24/7, you're leaving no space for creativity because your creativity doesn't live in the hustle. You're leaving no space for intuition and listening to that, which is your greatest guiding compass as a business owner. Right? There's going to be so much logic that comes in and strategy and strategic ways, and you can build your email list and funnel this and XYZ. But like, what does your intuition say?
Mhm.
Because every single time I've listened to my intuition, that's when timelines really collapse. That's when things really freaking happen for me. But when I do the logical steps, I'm like, this feels so clunky and like,
Mhm.
oh, like slog. Like I have to do this and then I get that and da, da, da. But when you follow your intuition and that energy and what lights you up, things always move 10 times faster. But
Totally.
if you're so busy doing every single thing, right? And then I think there's a thread in here that needs to be talked about with self worth,
Oh, let's talk about it.
right? If you tie all of your achievements to your productivity, to your output, to what you do, to what you accomplish, that's where I was. That's how I got to burnout was if I'm not doing something 24/7, that means I'm not good enough.
Mm.
So I shall fill my calendar to the absolute fucking brim because then I'm important, then I'm lovable, then I'm good enough.
Mhm.
And so that was the wound I had to like really heal.
And we need to and the guilt. We need to
Mhm.
stop the guilt. The guilt is I mean, that's, it's a killer, especially as a business owner. One of the things that we're doing as business owners is we're trying to get this time freedom, but then when we
It's like unsafe. It's unsafe to not
totally,
be doing.
totally. Yeah, it's crazy, and then, if we're let's say you and I take off and we have a spa day on Thursday afternoon and my contractor's calling me and immediately get guilty because I'm not in working during work hours. And that's like there's a box that we're trying to fit ourselves into and it doesn't fit anymore.
Exactly. But then that is part of this process of building a sustainable business is you now have to go under the rug and look at all the pieces of how you're unable to actually not work
Mhm.
and not feel guilty about it. and
Mm-hmm.
take time for yourself without that guilt, right? Set those boundaries. I told the contractors I do not work on Thursdays. So they can call me all they want, and you've just got to put those, boundaries up, and like this is what it is. And right, like it's really hard. And
It is.
so that's, I think, the next like level that a lot of my clients will struggle with is like, okay, they create the time freedom and then they're like, what the fuck do I do with this?
Yeah.
I feel so unsafe being here. So now they've got to train their nervous system. It's safe for me to rest. It's safe for me to go slower. It's safe for me to, whatever that kind of piece is around like rest and slowing down and having a slow morning. Then they've got to navigate their nervous system and their mindset around that, which is like, it's wild. It's safer for us a lot of women to hustle.
Which is crazy.
It is, but it's not, right? It's just how you've been conditioned, which for me, this is the piece that I'm like so nerd out to. Like, how fucking cool is that your brain has actually been like trained in that way? Like, it only gives me the proof that it can go the other direction too,
Mm-hmm.
which I find so like empowering. But that piece is like, it's just so interesting. It's just so interesting how our brain can like do what it does, how that can be safe. The chaos that we have in our households with children and mornings and lunches and all of that, that's actually safer than having an organized system or process or way of getting everybody out the door in the morning that feels a little bit easier.
It is fascinating.
It's so fascinating. This is like the stuff that I love digging into with
I can tell.
clients. Yeah.
She's lit up. If you're not watching this, Tracey's lit up right now.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love the human brain. Right?
So what, can I ask you some questions about your personal routine then?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. What's one thing that you have to have in your morning routine or your daily routine?
Morning routine for sure is like we have to stay in bed. Like just a little bit longer, just a little bit longer. So I'm the person who like I absolutely snooze once, probably twice. I am never going to be that person that I hear the alarm go off and I get up.
Yeah.
Never,
Yeah.
never. Like that for my nervous system doesn't feel safe.
Right.
Right. So for me, like no rushing. We don't rush. We never rush. And so for me, that means I do have to like pre-plan a lot of stuff.
Right.
Right. So that doesn't feel good for me and my nervous system. So I'm always being really, really mindful. Like my non-negotiable is like, how does my nervous system feel when I'm doing things this way? And so I'm really, really like hyper conscious of that. So in the morning, it's always staying in bed, like always, at least 30 minutes. Cause that like cozy time for me to like wake up, get my like life together in my mind, then I can go off and like start my day. But again, I'm like a slow moving vehicle. I should have a yield sign on the back of me in the morning. Like, you will not rush me. My fiance's like, come on, babe, like, let's go. And I'm just like, I'm coming. I'll get there. And he's like, the truck is really warm now, or like, whatever we're doing, like, let's go. And I'm just like, I won't be rushed because I
Yeah.
know that just gives me anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I
So
mean,
that's a really big piece.
okay. Do you pick up your phone right away? Do you leave your phone? What do you do for those 30 minutes?
Yeah, I try to not be on my phone for those 30
Yeah.
minutes. What I love doing is I'll wake up, I'll look at emails, I look at texts, and like to make sure that nothing is on fire,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes it's like, hey, I need to reschedule that call or that thing. So
That
I
you're
need to
getting
know.
ready for.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I need to know that. And then my mind is like, cool. So I'll go in, I'll delete all of the stupid junk emails. I'm very like, I hate emails. So I'm never going to be the person who has 500 emails unread. Go in, delete all of that kind of stuff, look through everything. Okay, everybody's sound and safe and good. Have my 30 minutes to myself. And then after that, I typically will start my day like trying to get rid of all of my like client notifications and do all of that kind of stuff. If it's a client facing day, which is typically on my phone.
Right.
So that'll be like your Instagram DMs and Voxer and everything in like Mighty Networks where all of my client like portals and all that stuff is. So I'll kind of get all of that stuff so they have that support first, and then kind of move into the rest of my day. And it usually starts with client calls on client facing days. And then Tuesday and Thursday's my day off. I do not take anything or do any work that day unless I'm inspired. And then Tuesday's my CEO day. So that's typically working on the business.
Do you time block your schedule?
I don't time block. I'm not that person, but I definitely schedule. So instead of
Okay.
time block, I schedule. I feel like it's kind of the same thing, kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, that task will take me 1 hour. And so like I've got the little like cube so you can like set it. Okay, an hour, go. Giving myself that time of like, this is going to take me that long. This is going to take me that long. And then I also like fudge with it where it's like, I don't want to do any of those things today. Actually don't want to, I'm not inspired by any of it. And I think we all have that energy and know that when you're in the right energy to do these things in your business, that's when it flows, right? Like I just launched a private podcast to my email list in a matter of a couple of days because I was just so in the energy. I'm like, I'm excited. I love this. Let's do it. Here's the tools, launch it, get it out there, recorded it in my closet. Life is great. And, that I've been trying to launch a podcast forever, but it just never felt right. And then when it did energetically like feel really, really aligned, that's when it was like, okay, nothing on my list matters today. I'm just going to do that instead.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So I think
Mm-hmm.
there's like that balance in that sense too, where you can't like force yourself with all of these like business tasks, right? They also have to feel somewhat inspiring. Like I always say to my clients, like business should be like fun.
Mm-hmm.
It should be. If it's not fun, like we are doing it wrong.
I say that all the time. If it's not fun, I ain't doing it.
Exactly. Or if it's
Yeah.
not fun and you do have to do it, like fucking taxes, or like
Yeah.
there are things that we have to
Of
do,
course.
make it fun.
Yeah.
Put on your favorite music, get a good drink, go to a coffee shop, do it with a bestie, like figure out how to make it fun some way, shape, or form. Or if there's just no way, then plan something fun afterwards. Like
Mm-hmm.
reward yourself, treat yourself, go for a walk, get a coffee, like again, whatever that like feeling of success is for you, go do one of those things.
I read a couple of things actually that are coming up. I had a guest on the podcast. Her name's Rachel Nixon. She's a hairstylist in the States. Um, and she leads her team based on biorhythms, which I also found fascinating,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that a lot of times as entrepreneurs and females, we always think that it should be a copy and paste of this day. So tomorrow, yesterday I did this, I'm going to do this today, or week to week. And because our hormones shift so much, we should really be a little bit more cognizant of that, and leading our business and our lives that way. So that's like something I find quite interesting. I haven't done that yet, but it also goes with our creativity. Like there's going to be days where it's like, oh, I don't feel like doing this at all. So if we know those days, we can try to not schedule anything, and then we
Yeah.
don't disappoint.
Exactly. Yeah, like going around like your cycle is really, really important. Like for me, like those days there's nothing happening and my brain's probably going to tell me a lot of like shitty things and lies. So I'm also
Mm,
really aware on those days that like it's like what about this and this isn't happening and the world's ending and whatever else my brain wants to present to me on those days. I just know it's a whole bunch of crap.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like I don't really attach myself to it. Whereas before, I used to be like, oh my God, is that true? Is this no no no? Like you really go down the rabbit holes and you have the thought spirals and I totally agree. I just don't pay attention to those thoughts anymore. It's like, oh, there's my brain going off again about God knows what. Like
Yeah.
come Thursday, I'll be fine. And I'll be
Yeah.
back to my most empowered self because I'll be out of that, phase of my cycle. So I think that's really important. And then yeah, honoring your creativity. If you're not creative too, knowing how like I just have no creativity lately. I have no inspiration lately. Do you have space in your calendar? Because that's where creativity lives. Creativity
Mhm.
doesn't live in being busy 24/7. Have you really sat down and given yourself just an hour?
Mhm.
Just brainstorm, just think, be with yourself, sit in the sunshine, have a coffee. Like, you know what I mean? Like one of those
Go
slower
for a walk.
moments.
Yep.
Go for a walk if that's where you find creativity. I love
Yep.
going to a coffee shop and people watching the heck out of everyone, right? And so just knowing like where does that exist? Like I know it sounds silly, but you kind of have to schedule time for creativity
Oh, I
and
completely
inspiration.
agree. And anytime you're like, think about the other night I was writing one of our newsletters. I'd recorded 2 podcasts that day. I'd already created a bunch of content. And at the end of the day, I was like, I literally have nothing left in my brain.
Yeah.
Um, and being aware of that, um, and just going easy on myself. So then you learn, okay, I probably should, that's my mistake. I should have done this first thing because it doesn't actually take that much. But that self-awareness piece always comes back to understanding as a creative, energy goes where or what's that saying? Energy flows where energy goes, or whatever it is. Like when
Focus
there's
goes. Yeah.
when there's space,
Exactly.
when nothing's happening, and when you're really trying to think of something and you can't think of it, but you think of it all of a sudden.
When you're in the shower.
Totally, when you're quiet.
Yeah. Before you
Um,
go to bed.
Totally, or 3 a.m. when you go to the bathroom. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so true. Okay, so if you had one piece of advice to give yourself 5 years ago, what would it be? Well, whenever. We'll say your past self.
Yeah. Past self. Oh my God. I feel like intuition always comes up every time, every single time. The intuition has always been there to support me. So that's a big piece of like listening to it. Those little tiny nudges, like when your brain is like a ping pong ball, girl, that is not your intuition. That is, your ego, your overwhelm. That's a big thread. And then I think honestly, like carve out time for space. for being alone, just sitting there. Like that is just as important as you writing your email newsletter and getting that thing up and all of that. Especially too, I've really leaned into my human design, which I did not even know existed, thanks to my best friend Nicole. And that opened up a whole nother level for me of just understanding how my energy works in human design as a projector. I need space. Like I literally require that in order to create content and be creative and think of all these things I want to share on the podcast, et cetera, et cetera. And so for the longest time, I didn't have those Thursdays off. I worked 5 days a week. And once I started to take those Thursdays off, it was freaking hard in the beginning because I
Mm-hmm.
felt all the guilt.
Of
And
course.
I'm like, I'm literally missing out on 8 hours of potential. Like, that's so dumb. That's so illogical, but intuitively I knew it was right. So it's like intuitively I knew I needed to take the space, but I never could. And so if I could like do anything from the beginning, it would have to been always have that weekday off. Listen to that intuition because it's always been right every damn time. There's never been a time
Mm-hmm.
where I'm like, oh, my intuition was not right there. No, it's always a hindsight's 2020 moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to ask you is just for our listeners. So if there's anyone listening that feels stuck in their business or they don't know how to move forward, what's a piece of advice that you would give them?
Mm. Oh, stuck in clarity. Those are like two of my favorite words. I
Not
think a
hustle.
lot, not hustle. I think a lot of us think that we can figure it out and push ourselves through those like stuck moments. And sometimes we can, but I think a lot of time, if you're already hustling, if you're already making all the moves and you still feel stuck, I'd say to like go take space for yourself. Again, it's like I just don't see it happening enough where you go and like go sit by yourself for 30 minutes with no phone, no podcast in your ears when you go for a walk, no podcast in the car when you're driving, no podcast when you're, you know what I mean? Because we always have something in our ear. We're over
Totally.
consuming
Mhm.
so much knowledge. You don't even know what voice is yours or Heather's, like,
Mhm.
or you know what I mean? Or someone
Mhm.
else's. And so I think that's a big piece of it, especially if you want to step into thought leadership, you really want to stand out, you want to have a big, bold brand, you want to share perspectives that are going to attract and repel, obviously, those amazing people. You've got to make space for this stuff. But we are filling every ounce of our time with something, a
Mhm.
meditation or a podcast or listening or doom scrolling or TikToking or whatever. So
It's so
that's,
true. No, I completely agree with you. I've said this for I feel like I was a trailblazer in this regard, especially
mm-hmm.
with the true crime stuff. Like I mean we don't think about what we're consuming enough. I think it's starting to get a little bit more prevalent, but what we're putting in our ears affects us so deeply. Our
Yeah.
DNA. You would know that.
Exactly. And how much, right? If you're filling every moment of space because you don't want to hear your own thoughts, you're scared of what's there, you don't give time for your ideas to come through. Like, here's an analogy that I find helpful. I'm a visual learner, so maybe this will help listeners, but I think of it like a train. And when a train is like stacked with all the cars, right? Imagine your intuition's on one side or your creativity, and you're on the other side, and it's trying to throw you a tennis ball, which is an idea, through the crack. That's hella hard to
Yeah.
time. It's
Almost
gonna maybe
impossible.
get like one through, maybe,
Yeah.
right? But let's just imagine we started to take off some of the doing and some of the like all of the things you're stacking on your plate. So now you have some of those empty train cars that we've seen. We've seen that on a train before, right? Where it's got like two things and there's some empty space. Now throwing that tennis ball across, so much easier. You probably get like 15 across before the next thought comes or the next idea or the next to do comes. And so that's kind of how I think of it is like, can we just take a few things off, give yourself some space? And usually that does mean slowing down
Preach,
just
girl.
just a little.
I
Like just
love
and
it.
I think we also get overwhelmed with like I got to sit down for a full hour. Just try 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
something.
Even 5. Just do a
Yeah,
little bit, just a little bit.
exactly. Like look what comes up in the shower and that like showers are maybe 10 minutes long
This
because
okay, Tracy, this is amazing.
yay, I'm so glad.
You are I've never had this conversation with you, so it's enlightening. It's I love to hear your perspective on things and I think that especially entrepreneurs, I think it's very, very valuable what you have to say. And I hope that if anyone's listening and they're looking for a coach like you, that they reach out to you because um, you're making waves, girlfriend.
Thank you. Yeah, if you're a high achiever who wants that time freedom, let's talk because it's so possible. And again, I've been there. I was that woman.
Hmm.
Right? And then I just got to this point where I'm like, there's no way that this is the way. Like there's
Hmm.
got to be a better way. And so that's always kind of been my question to myself when I come up against the wall where you feel like there's no way out is like there's got to be a better way. And I mean, this was me with my 9 to 5. I was miserable. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. There's no way that this is like how you do life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where can our listeners find her? Do you have anything you're offering specifically right now? Anything you want to chat about?
Right now, I've got my 2 classic offers. I'm hoping to launch a mastermind this fall, but right now it's the Evolving Entrepreneur. So that is open for enrollment. You can join for the March 2026 cohort, which feels like a mile away, I'm sure. But the earlier you join, the earlier you get that support. And then one-on-one coaching, I think that's booked out now until maybe June. I've got to look at my calendar, but we can find space in place. You can always put down a deposit. And then, yes, a mastermind hopefully this fall with a retreat included.
Awesome. Okay. Do you have your website, socials, things like that?
Yeah, website is traceyjasmin.com, and you can thank my parents for giving me a name that is not typical spelling. I was a kid who never could get the keychains, but it's TraceyJazmin, and then my Instagram is the same, just a dot in the middle. So
Excellent. And we'll have everything in the show notes for links and if you have any resources or anything like that. So we make it easy for our listeners. And yeah, this was an absolute pleasure. It was so nice spending. This was an hour. Can you believe that?
I know.
It's
Such a
crazy.
good combo. This is me with every coffee date I ever go on. I'm like, schedule 3 hours, girl, because it's going to be at least that long.
Totally. Anyways, thank you so much, Tracey. Maybe we'll have you back on the show if we can conjure up some time. It was a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, another episode bites the dust. If you loved this conversation as much as I did, don't forget to hit follow, leave a review, or even send it to a friend you think would enjoy it. And because I like to keep things fun, we're always running giveaways with our amazing guests. So make sure to check out the show notes, our Instagram page, get in on the details on how to get the free stuff because it's free and fun. And who doesn't like that? Another little disclaimer, while I love sharing advice and business wisdom, I am not your lawyer, I'm not your accountant, and I'm not your fairy godmother. If you do want to be best friends, though, you can hit me up. Everything on this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, so no lawsuits, okay? Thank you for hanging out with me today. If you'd like to hang out more, you can find me on Instagram at I am Heather Dick and at the Expansion Code. And all of our free resources and consulting packages are on the website, www.theexpansioncode.ca. I appreciate you being here more than you know. I will see you next time.